Is everyone freaked out by how many tabs I have opened too?
Completely normal for a
Yeah,
founder. You're good.
completely normal. Yeah, I have about 50 of them open. So yeah. Um,
Katie was saying that chat is disabled for participants. Is that the case?
really? Oh, really? That is weird. Let me see if let me see what I can do about that.
I had no idea what you were talking about with the tabs, and then you went to your window. I was like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah,
That
same
was that
here.
was that was
I
that was
didn't even notice.
terrifying.
Yep, yep. Attendees. That's so weird. That we have that disabled. I'm sure Corey will fix that at some point. Allow attendees to. Interesting. So definitely everyone can Q&A. In terms
Cool.
of chat, I'm just gonna. All right. Under the meeting, click webinar. All right. Well, I'll let Corey handle that. Thank everyone for joining and hopping on. Thank you for all of our panelists in advance. I'm gonna thank you about a million other times, but super excited for this. Super excited to talk about organic content, how to plan it, how to figure out kind of like your voice, I guess, on this platform called the TikTok. And we're just gonna get started with just kind of like a quick intro of what we'll be talking about, what won't we be talking about. Then I'll do a quick kind of like introduction of our amazing coaches, and then we'll just dive right into questions. I have a ton of questions, but as always, if you have a specific question, drop it in the FAQs. And if you have very generic questions too, also feel free to drop them in the FAQ. Cool. So what we're going to be talking about today is how to plan your content plan, how to build processes within overall your TikTok universe and your short form content universe. What really matters in working with all these different platforms that are coming out, and how to measure success instead of chasing it. What we felt that along the lines of somewhere in the middle of last year, a lot of artists were all of a sudden starting to chase these viral moments instead of figuring out how do I get incremental, sustainable growth that will actually lead to like long time growth. What we probably won't cover is how to go viral. I'm not in the business of gambling. I know that the Powerball is like $2 billion this month, but it's just not sustainable to me. Influencer marketing, probably won't touch on that too much. And how to use hashtags, tricks, techniques that are kind of like gonna get you instant growth and then kind of disappear. We find that focusing on that stuff just kind of leads you away from the substance, which is let's create some awesome freaking content. Let's get people to really interact with you as a person, as an artist, as a creator, and then we'll move on to bigger and better things from there. So without any further ado, I want to kind of like introduce our panelists one by one. I'm going to stop the sharing here. Let's start with, well, ladies first. Katie, I'd love to hear from you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie. I am a musician and coach for musicians, helping them with both their strategy and their mindset. Actually started my coaching career as a wellness coach several years back because I just noticed that so many people were burning out and lacking the time management and sort of like emotion management skills that they needed to grow their careers. But I love strategy, so I could not stay away. My clients wanted it. So now what I focus on is around helping musicians create their brand and their social media presence while staying sane and making money. Introducing online offers like Patreon or coaching or teaching programs into their music business so that they can have an audience who will buy from them and products that they can actually buy. So that's a little bit about what I do.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And I actually found Katie randomly on TikTok. And then randomly I went to an event and I saw her and I was like, I know you're from TikTok. You're TikTok famous now.
I was like, what? But I also loved it.
Cool. Yeah, let's Ken, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Itai, for having me, and welcome all of you guys. It's so nice to just see so many people in this space. Just so super excited about TikTok because it's so powerful. But my name's Kenneth. I have a bunch of names. Kate is like my music business name. Alex Kate is my artist name. But first and foremost, I'm an artist. And how I got started on TikTok is Rowan here back in 2020. He told, like, I used to do a bunch of drum covers, and he's like, yo, TikTok is easy. Just cut them all up and just post them on TikTok. So I posted one of them, got 400,000 views, and I was like, okay, no, this platform is powerful. And since then, I've just been growing my artist brand on TikTok. But back last year, I had one of my friends reach out to me, one of my mentors. He's like, I have a song release, but I don't want to do TikTok. You know how to do TikTok. Can you just do it for me? Can you just tell me what to record, and then just I'll record it and you post it all? I'm like, okay, cool. That went really well. We got a ton of traction for his new songs. We grew his page like crazily in the first month. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I went to one of my friends. I asked him, hey, can you help me grow this? So we reached out to a few other artists reached out to us when we started advertising it. The campaigns went really well with those guys as well. And since then, we started a TikTok or short form media marketing agency called Short Form Studio. And basically what we do is we mainly focus on artists and musicians, helping them grow their pages, hitting their business goals through TikTok, through short form media, because this new media environment, this new craze of short form media is just the most effective way of marketing basically anything these days.
Cool. Hell yeah. Yeah, Ken is the GOAT. By the way, we just started chatting, so you guys feel free to drop some chats in the chat. And last but not least, Rohan.
Hey guys, really excited to be here. My name is Rohan, and I am one half of a hip hop group called Karolinka. I'm a rapper, and yeah, back in 2019, I had just quit my full-time job. I was in tech, and you know, as is the case when you quit your job and you're trying to be an artist, your ad budget significantly shrinks, you know? And so, so I was kind of in this precarious position where me and my music partner were kind of like, okay, we can't afford to run ads anymore. So where is it that we can build an audience online as cheaply as possible? And that's when this thing called TikTok was just kind of gaining traction, but still had the stigma of being this app for, you know, 12-year-olds dancing in front of a camera or whatever. And, you know, we posted on there every day for 2 months. And within a month, we had basically eclipsed whatever following we'd built over 2.5 years on Instagram. And that to me was kind of like a sign of, okay, something's working here. And since then, you know, I really want part of my legacy, you know, similar to Ken over here, to be helping other artists as well. Because I think, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats. And so, you know, I've packaged kind of all of my learnings into this framework called Zero to Growth, which is a course that, you know, artists can take that I offer. And, you know, one of the first people to take that course was actually Itai when he was managing his band. And, you know, once I started to see this course and this framework work for like people completely outside of my genre, like opera singers and like just other content creators in general, that's when I kind of took it as a sign that, hey, there's something here and there's actually a sustainable framework towards growing an audience and community on TikTok. And that's what I'm personally really passionate about, is empowering artists, whether independent or major, to take a community focused and a depth focused approach towards TikTok, as opposed to just kind of having that viral moment, gaining 100,000 followers and disappearing. Really figuring out how you can build a sustainable career over time. And I think that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm super excited to be joined by these amazing panelists and to get started. Yeah.
Cool beans. Awesome. I'm going to give like kind of like my journey through TikTok real quick, just because not everybody knows. I actually started working on TikTok stuff way back when, in 2018. Seems like prehistory at this point. Met a couple of really interesting people, really interesting TikTokers, learned a lot from them. They were kind of like the OGs in Musical.ly, and then they transferred into TikTok. Got to run a couple of TikTok campaigns in 2019. Then later on in 2020, started Push Talk. And then from there, kind of just slowly moved on. Since then, worked with hundreds of artists, not more. Wow, it's been a while. And I'm super happy to be here. A big proponent of just figuring out processes. So I wanna actually start this with like a question about processes, about how do I build something that is, what's the process of finding out what is authentic to me in the context of creating short form content, because it doesn't come super naturally to everyone. How do I go about it?
I can start. Do you guys like? And then yeah, cool.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's about a couple different things. I think the first thing to do, which I think I've recently kind of internalized this, because not enough artists do this. I think the first thing is define what you want your relationship with the platform to be, right? And you might have a general sense of this, or you might have a really defined sense of this. Chances are, especially if you're just starting, you have a general sense, but that's probably going to change over time. But just putting it down on paper is going to really help. So for example, there are a lot of artists that want a transactional like relationship with TikTok, and that's okay as long as you take a community driven sort of approach to that, right? Meaning, this is a tool for me to promote my music. That's it. I want to get people on Spotify. There are other folks who want to use TikTok for kind of like a deeper measure, right? Like building a community. Like, I want people to come out to my live shows. I want people to join my Discord. I want to just find my tribe, right? But I think it's incredibly important to define that, because that's going to ultimately define the type of approach you take towards content creation, and it's going to make things more sustainable in the long run. The other thing I think you need to do after that is kind of define and discover your universe, is what I like to call it, which is essentially figuring out what you want to post about, but I would argue more importantly, figuring out what you don't want to post about, right? Quite often, like what people kind of get sucked into is the social media trap of, like Itai said, chasing success as opposed to measuring it. And quite often, you know, when you chase success, your definition of it gets ultimately warped, because you realize that you can get this video that gets 1.2 million views of you dancing on the subway, but ultimately, you know, when you zoom out, it's not fulfilling that North Star of, for example, getting people out to your live shows or getting people to Spotify or whatever it is. And so that success doesn't matter, right? It comes and goes. It's a quick kind of dopamine hit, and then it disappears. So defining what you don't want to post about, I think is super important. And then from there, you can kind of narrow it down, figure out really you know, these are the things I'm really passionate about, like posting covers or like just promoting my original music, whatever it is. And then you can kind of go from there, and that'll make things easier. Yeah, I'll pause there, and if you guys want to build on it.
Well, I'd love to build on that, because I think everything you said is so spot on. And I'm kind of like a root cause gal. And I think a lot of people, without actually setting up their foundation, will just like hop on TikTok and do the like, go pre-save my song. And then they're like, why isn't this working? And so in terms of like systems and really like what you need to have before you can actually be successful. Success looks different to everyone, but successful on TikTok is clarity, so much clarity on what your brand is, not your visual brand, not your genre, but your personal brand and message and who your audience is. And you might have heard these things before, and we all kind of know by now, hopefully, that like you can't serve everyone. But this is what I think helps to create a distinction between the people who are just doing like promo posts that just aren't hitting, because you have to remember that when you're scrolling on TikTok, you are a stranger to the person who's seeing your video, especially when you're starting from scratch. They do not know who you are. So you need that context. You need to build a relationship with them. You need to connect with them. And that's where knowing exactly who you're trying to target and knowing exactly what your brand and your message is comes in. So, and that also like helps you create the content. It creates a distinguishment between just doing like random trends that you see because that's how you think you're going to pop off, versus getting followers because people like you and your music. Doesn't mean you can't do trends, but if you're doing random trends about like anything, oops, I'm knocking things over on my desk because I'm so excited about this. It's just not going to call in the people that will allow you to sustainably grow and get those ROIs of like listeners, merch sales, people attending your gigs and things like that. So before anything else, you need to figure out your brand. You need to figure out who you're serving, and then do that work of like, what do I want to create? What do I want to say? And how do I want to say it? Knowing those things.
Yeah, so I don't even know if I have anything to add on to what Rowan and Katie just said. That was amazing. But how I like to boil things down for the people that I'm working with is when you're first starting out with TikTok, again, defining what you want from the platform is super, super important, right? Where do you want to send people? To your shows, to your music, to your Discord, whatever. And then when you're figuring out your content, I think the best thing that works for a lot of artists is just showing off what you're strongest at, because it's most likely you're going to be very, very good at that. And like people like your music already, or people like you because of that, what you're strongest at. So it's all about showing off what you are strongest at, and then just kind of adjusting your call to actions, adjusting how you're framing your content. So it's not like me, like on Instagram. It's all about like, hey, I made this song for you, right? You're adding value to the audience. So just turning what you're strongest at into something, or framing it so it adds value to whoever's scrolling on TikTok. I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah, I mean, these were spot on. I mean, there's one thing that I think when I talk to people that I hear a lot is like, where do I even start? And I love that you start with like, okay, what's your biggest selling point? Like, I have a 5-octave range, but like you're not singing on any of your videos. So what the hell are you doing? So I think that's a really good starting point for people. And I think that's a really smart way to kind of like start with the lowest hanging fruit and see if people respond to them. How do you even go about testing or measuring what works? Like when you guys like audit an account, what do you look for in that kind of sense? Damn, it was deep, and I see Ken like going like.
I know everybody's thinking. I look the most for comments. And that's just me. Like most of the clients that I work with and my own personal relationship with the app is a lot about community. And so for me, it's not always just about views. Like a lot of times videos, especially if they're trends, they might get a lot of views, but they're not necessarily getting engagement in the terms of like comments and shares, likes as well. But for me, I know that something is really resonating with the ideal audience when there's conversation happening under that video. So that's like one of the biggest things that I look at to see, again, what are those topics? How am I presenting it that's really getting through to them? And then kind of taking that and continuing to build on it. Also, I just had a video that did go viral, and people in the comments are literally like, can't wait for more of this series. Like, so excited for this. This is such a great idea. Like, listen to your audience. They will literally tell you when something is working, and don't take that for granted. If you're getting crickets, there's probably a reason why. If you're getting people telling you that they're obsessed with this, there is also a reason why.
For me, when I audit an account, excuse me, when I look at my artists' videos, the artists that I work with, I always just ask, like, is this even good content in the first place? Like, if someone else posted this, would you actually be interested in that? is your singing good, is your music good, is whatever the content is good? Because like if you have good content, then it's just a matter of when, not if, that your content, you know, gets the traction that needs. So we got to boil down to, is this even good first? And then we can figure out, okay, it's good. Now we just got to figure out, okay, are we framing it properly? Do we need to fix the headlines? Do we need to add more like copy or something? Is it the lack of comments or something like that? But good content is just like music, right? It's all about the content. It's all about the music. You just got to be really, really good at creating that stuff. And then once you're good at that, then it's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I think yeah, completely agree with that. And I think to quickly build on that, and also something Ken was talking about before around like adding value to the audience. I think so where I like to start is like what makes you excited, right? Because quite often, like what I hate seeing personally is like a creator will be really excited about something, right? Like they're super excited about covers, or they're super excited about like nerding out about music theory or whatever, and they post that and it doesn't get any traction. And I think a lot of people look at that and say, well, that means people aren't interested in that content. But more often than not, you know, TikTok is huge. There's 1 billion plus users. More often than not, it's not that people aren't interested in that content. It's either you're not reaching those people, or you're not like framing it in the right context to get the right people to be interested in that content. And personally, I've been through this where, you know, I've gone through that like phase on TikTok where I've posted stuff that really isn't authentic to me. Like in 2020, I posted like a Dixie D'Amelio cover, and if you know me as a rapper, like that is just not me at all. And it was just like, it was the worst thing ever. It was like okay, I know this is going to gain algorithmic traction, so I'm going to post it. But the reason I was doing that was because I was posting all this lyrical content that wasn't gaining traction. And for me, I was like, oh, people on TikTok aren't interested in lyricism. About a year later, I reframed my approach to it. I reframed it from a standpoint of, no, people are interested, but I'm not gaining their attention properly. And so I started this series where basically I would say like, give me a really like complicated word and I'm going to make like a 4-bar verse out of it. And that's what like gained a lot of traction. And people were like, I love this. Like it's super lyrical, the wordplay. I found my tribe, right? But it wasn't that people weren't interested in lyricism. It's just, I wasn't framing in the right way. And so quite often, like the artists I work with, they're in a similar predicament where they'll kind of get into a boat where they'll be like, well, there's no market for this on TikTok. People aren't interested in progressive metal. And I'd be like, no, that people aren't interested. You're just not framing it in the right way. You need to frame it like Katie said, everyone who's coming across your content is a stranger and quite frankly doesn't care about you. How can you pull them in and give them familiar context so that they do care about you, right? So like what Kenneth does is like, he makes like great EDM music, but the way he frames it is it's like anime remixes. So he's kind of like reaching out and like that familiar, exactly the shirt, right? It's like he's giving you familiar context. So even if you don't know who he is, immediately you know what Death Note is as a fan of Death Note. And suddenly you know this like this theme music that is being remixed. So now he's given you kind of like a connecting node to potentially become a fan of his, right? So like build those connecting nodes and those bridge points. And I guarantee you, if there's something you're really passionate about and you care about, like don't give up on it just because it's not working. Like try to reframe it. That's what I try to do with my clients is like reframe your approach to what you're most passionate about.
And to also address Jacob's question about falling into a niche. So that was something that I was worried about, and that a lot of artists ask me about, like, hey, I don't want to keep posting the same, or if I post this type of content, is it going to put me in a niche? So for me, just like Rowan said, I have made a lot of anime remixes. That's like kind of the biggest thing about my artist branding right now, and it's like the biggest thing that's like driving all my business. But the things that I'm showing off, right, it always just leads back some way to my musicality, me as an artist, my music in general. So I'm not just posting only about anime and like anime is like the be all end all. I'm posting about my music, and it just happens that I'm relating this stuff to anime. So just like finding that like connecting thing, because I am a producer, I'm an EDM producer, and like in all my videos, I'm always showing off or telling someone that, hey, I'm some sort of musician, I'm some sort of artist, right? It just happens I really like anime, or I really like this, I really like that, or I really like something else, right? So an example where, you know, if you have a video that does not have anything to do with music at all, that you can still like kind of frame it as I make music. Literally just, I don't think we have pinned comments anymore. I still have pinned comments. I don't know if you guys have pinned comments anymore, but even just posting it, or even just posting it in comments, or adding like a little like CTA or something, be like, by the way, guys, I make music, just something like that. And they'll just tell people, hey, this person's like a musician. Obviously, if you're posting content that doesn't have to do with your music, like if you're posting like 80% of your stuff doesn't have to do with music, no one's going to know you're a musician. So you're kind of screwed that way. But if you're mainly posting about how you're a musician, you're showing off music content, you're showing off something that shows you off as an artist, then they're going to see that one video, go to your profile and see, oh, wait, they mainly post music content. This person's actually a musician. So it's kind of not even, am I worried about being put in this niche if this one video goes viral? It's like, are you just showing off your music in general for TikTok, not just one video, like all the videos that you're posting? Does that make sense, Jacob?
I also kind of want to add to that because like I feel like I disagree just like a teeny bit in the sense that I think that musicians tend to worry a lot about being pigeonholed and being in a niche. But the other like extreme of it, which is what is usually happening, is like there's so many possibilities and so many things to post that then they get lost in paralysis. So like we want to find somewhere in the middle that you can create from. And the way I usually teach it is to create like series ideas. I won't go too in depth into it, but like basically most of your favorite creators, they're creating like 1 to 5 very specific types of videos. Like they kind of have like a little shtick that they do, and you know them for those certain things. So what I want to say to Jacob is just that like knowing your brand and knowing your message, not to be redundant, it really helps to just clarify what your niche is. And your niche isn't going to be pigeonholed into one type of video. You define what your niche is, and that video will fit into your niche that you want to be in. Now, where I disagree just like a teeny bit, I think with Kenneth is maybe just like in the balance of shoving the fact that you're a musician down people's throats. Not suggesting that you were saying that, but like, I think that it's easy to be like, I'm a musician. Okay, I have to like do music and all my things. But I actually think that when you do non-music content, and yes, definitely throw it in there and be like, I'm Katie, I'm a musician and blah, blah, blah. And, tell your story or do whatever. But when you can have like well-rounded content that's not all about your music, that helps to build a deeper relationship with your fans. And keeping in mind, I'm also coming from the perspective of like, if you want to make money doesn't come just from followers. Money comes from like super fans. So that relationship often helps. So don't be afraid to like branch out a little bit, right? Don't be afraid to like talk about other things that aren't music and then feel like you can never talk about your music because you did that. As long as it's within your brand that you've created, it will all flow nicely together. And when people see, oh, this video wasn't about their music, but now in the next video, they're talking about their music and the theme of that music is very on brand with like the other, video, it all just goes together. It'll be cohesive. So just wanted to throw that out there. I do agree with you, Kenneth, but I just wanted to like add that slightly different perspective.
I just want to, I know Itai probably wants to move on. I just want to add
No,
like
no,
one
all
last
good,
thing.
all good. Like,
One
you gotta
last
run with
thing.
it.
In my opinion, you only pigeonhole yourself if you choose not to lead anyone anywhere else, right? And what I mean by that is, so Kenneth posts all these anime remix videos, and that's all he did. All he did was like post anime remix videos, post them on Spotify, whatever. And one day he decides, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then he sees a significant like decline in views and like algorithmic reach, right? He's kind of pigeonholed himself. But let's say Kenneth posts these anime remix videos, and then he posts follow-up videos every time something goes viral. This is what he does, by the way. I've watched it. Like he posts follow-up videos being like, I'm going to be live on Twitch. I'm on my Discord. I have like a anime rave coming up next week. He has all these different connecting nodes, right? For fans to go deeper. And then like he gets a 1 million view video. He gets 10,000 followers from that video. And then out of those 10,000 followers, like 300 people join his Discord, right? And then once they're in his Discord, they're joining his Twitch streams every week. They're kind of like getting invested in who he is. Maybe they subscribe to his Patreon, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if Kenneth just drops the anime remix stuff after that, because he has 300 people really rocking with him who have like gone deeper in the journey, who have really, really invested in his journey. So he can afford to just drop the thing that pigeonhole himself. And so you kind of have to make yourself pigeonhole proof in a sense by making the fan journey deeper and taking people deeper over time, right? And so really, if you're pigeonholing yourself, you're kind of choosing to do it by it's not just about the type of content you post. It's also where is that content leading to? And are you building a holistic kind of like fan journey to kind of complement whatever is working?
Yeah, I mean, I love that because I think that that's like that is the core of like discovery platforms, right? Is you get people to discover you, and then you send them far, far away, but still kind of close. And that's like the one most important thing that I always tell artists and managers and record labels is I don't care about TikTok. I don't care about Instagram Reels. I don't care about YouTube Shorts because they don't care about me either. What I care about is finding the people that are on the platform and then making them feel a certain way so that they want to do a certain action that hopefully down the road is going to yield me some money, but also, going to yield impact on their lives. So those are amazing points. I especially love the fact that like, Ken, you had that thing that you were like, you need to look at it from the glasses of a stranger. Like you need to try to be impartial. And I feel like that's true, not just with content, but also with music overall. Try to be impartial and being hard on yourself without being too hard on yourself in terms of like criticize, like, okay, there's a 2-second pause before I start speaking on, on my content. Do I see that in other viral videos? And like be truthful with yourself, and which is I think is like really, really important. Yeah, millennial pause. Deadly. Absolutely. I want to ask about I want to talk about what Emma just commented. How would it look different promoting a show versus promoting music? Like basically hoping people would go to Spotify or other DSPs. Yeah, that's a great question.
I would love to start because I have like possibly a controversial take on this, which is that you should not approach TikTok with the idea of promoting anything at first, at least. I mean, obviously you're a musician. Obviously you want people to listen to your music and come to your shows and go to Spotify. But if that's the first thing you're doing, again, nobody is going to care. They don't know you. They're not invested in you. And this has kind of like been dropped as little gems from everyone so far, but I'll just say it like point blank straightly. But like, you have to make people care and you have to make it about them. Is this a tool to grow your music career and get streams on your music and people? Yes. But if you don't make it about your audience, they're not going to stick around for the ride. So when you start creating content, you need to provide value. Value does come from your music. Like your music is providing entertainment value and things like that. But right off the bat, by creating a hook for the, before the song that applies to them, or by creating storytelling videos or skits that are funny or engaging or heartwarming or whatever value you want to give out to people, that is going to help people care. It is going to help them be invested and want to take the next step. So that when you show them your song, they're saying, where can I listen to this? Instead of you saying, go listen to my song. So that's like the biggest thing that if I could leave you with one thing, it's that. And when you kind of change the mindset of how you approach social media in general and TikTok with that in mind of like, I am serving them and I am providing value. And in return, I know that they will show up for me. It changes everything. Now, it doesn't mean don't ever pitch. Like it is important when you do have a show or that you do a song coming out that you are talking about it, because if they don't know, they don't know. But it's in how you talk about it and how you approach it. That's really important. So before you worry about promoting your stuff, I would worry about creating that community and serving your audience. And then the promotion will kind of follow suit.
Totally agree with that. Oh, Rowan, you want to go? Yeah, kind of building off that as well. So just kind of even more specific about Emma's question, like when you're promoting your show or promoting your music, I would say, if you're promoting a show, you got to show people how they're going to feel at the show. You got to show people how much fun they're going to have at your artist show. Again, like adding that value, right? Making sure it's all about them. You're going to have this much fun at your show because our shows looks like this, right? Same thing with your music. Show them how it's going to add into their life, add add value into their life, make them feel. Is it going to heal them from some heartbrokenness? Is it going to hype them up really, really hard for the workout? Again, it's all about the audience, all about the audience.
Completely agree. I mean, I think, Kenneth, you've done a good job of this where you've had you take like you talked about this recently, right? Where you specifically engineer your shows so that you have like a moment that you can turn into viral content.
Yeah, we make sure. So I've been playing a bunch of shows this year, and me and my friends, we're always brainstorming like, okay, what's super, super fun for the audience, and how can we make it like as memeable as possible? Record it and then throw it up on TikTok. And I remember we had this one thing. So I like Naruto a lot for anime lovers out there, but there's this meme. I don't know if you guys remember from the Area 51, where like, oh, if we all Naruto run, right? No, they can't shoot us all or something. So we're like, what if we do that in a circle, right? And so we did that at our first show. We had like 700 people running around in a circle, being like complete idiots with our or ninja running, right? That went viral once, and I was like, oh, cool, right? And I funneled a ton of people towards my brand. I posted it again, I think a month after, viral again, right? And I think it went viral like a third time as well. But every time we do that, we've been doing that at all our shows, and just people are not even just on TikTok, but people are posting it on their stories, and everyone's like, what the heck? What is that? Like, that's just weird. You guys are so weird. What is that? Right? It just generates all this attention. But yes, just like thinking of what can go or what's super fun for the audience, right? And how can we make that like viral on social media as well?
And
or
then
just,
you
like,
have a
show it
bunch
off.
of people who are like, I want this in my city, right? Like bring
Exactly,
this
exactly.
experience to my
Yes.
city, which is
Exactly.
amazing.
And to add to like the fear of niches, that is actually so smart when you do the same thing over and over, not forever all the time and only that, but when you do the same thing over and over, people start to know you for that. And so now they're like, oh, that's the guy who does that thing at his shows. You know, I saw it 3 times by now. I'm going to follow, and now I'm like really intrigued and gonna stick around. So I love that you keep doing what works and you're not afraid to keep doing what works.
I don't think that's even a niche anymore. It's like it's showing off your unique selling points, right?
Yeah.
As an artist, as a product delivery or service, whatever.
No one else does
you
that.
call it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
No one
Yeah.
else does that. Like I was literally talking to a friend. He was like, I know that guy. He's the anime remix guy on TikTok. Like literally, like people know use that, right? Just to quickly add my 2 cents to this. I think when you're talking about promotion, and definitely agree with everything Katie said, you never want it to feel like promo, even if it is. You don't want it to feel like here's a call to action, go to Spotify or go buy a ticket. You want to lead with value all the time. But using the term promo as like whatever the marketing material or content behind, your ultimate objective is to drive people to Spotify or to a show. I think it's 2 different things, right? So like with Spotify and stuff like that, ultimately, what you want is breadth, in my opinion, right? So you want a message that's ultimately going to speak to a lot of people. I'm not saying like 1 million people every time or whatever, but someone who does this really well is like Connor Price. He's like a rapper on TikTok, and he does incredible like skit videos, right? He's been doing the series where he spins a globe, and whatever country it lands on, he collaborates with a rapper from that country, and he makes it into a song, and it goes on Spotify. Ingenious, just like funnel to Spotify, and it doesn't feel like promo because people are like, this is a cool series and I want to stream the song. With the show, like my personal approach to it, like we just went on like a mini tour this past summer, and my personal approach to it is very different. My perspective on it is different in that it's a much heavier ask to get someone to like literally show up in person, buy a ticket, come support you, especially if you're an independent artist or someone who doesn't have existing repertoire, right? Because the traditional approach to getting people to come to a show is I can build 500,000 followers on TikTok, and hopefully if I go to a big market, I can get like 250 people to show up to that show because it's just like such a small percentage of my overall top of funnel. I don't know about you guys, but that's a long time to wait, to get to like 500K and just bank on the fact that like hopefully like 250 people show up just because my top of funnel is so large. What I personally try to do is I try to create like a multi-step like fan interaction funnel. So what I do is like I do not like go like, oh, I have a show, come to it. What I do is I go, hey, if you're from New York and you're a fan of any of these artists, and I put a bunch of artists who are similar to mine or whatever, I'm trying to build my fan base, but I want to give back to you. So the first 15 people who DM me are going to get like a special gift. And that's it. That's all I do. And so it piques people's interest. Again, you're talking to a stranger, right? So when you talk about a stranger, what makes them care, right? when they see like I'm gonna get a special gift and like they see scarcity, they see I would urge everyone to look up the what is it? Oh God, I think it's the principles of persuasion. When it comes to like marketing, which is like scarcity, like time window, authority, all these things. When you incorporate that into your content and you pique people's interest, you know, we have a bunch of people who are DMing us, like at least 15 to 20 people from that area every day, and they're like, "Oh, I'm from New York. Like, what is the special gift?" And then we end up doing like either a custom playlist or like a custom video or something like that to show our appreciation, to say thanks for reaching out and supporting us. And it's something cool that they can show to their friends that's shareable, right? And now we have them in our DMs. So 2 months later, when we announced the New York show and we've given them and nurtured them with all this content, I send them a personalized invite and say, I'm coming to your city. It's our first show in this city. I would love for you to come through. Here's a discount code or whatever. Do all of them convert? No, but that's a heck of a higher chance, right, of someone actually coming through, especially when you're a small independent artist, than just being like, everyone buy tickets to my show, right? So, you know, figure out a way to like open up an interaction with a potential fan, especially in the early days. Use TikTok for that. And the difference to me is like when you're going for like song promo, you're going for that breadth, right? Like trying to reach a lot of people. But with show promo, ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to reach the right people. You're trying to reach like depth is what you're prioritizing for. So you're not really looking for a viral video. You're looking for something that speaks to the right people. And you kind of go from there once you open up that one-to-one interaction.
One last thing I'll add on that. Sorry to be a mic hog, but recently I've been also helping my clients create text lists or email lists, one or the other or both, because it's so much easier to sell via those modalities. If you send out a text to 100 people, they're probably all going to open it or at least see it. Whereas TikTok, you're relying on the algorithm. You don't even know if people from the city are going to see it. It's just so much harder. So provide value on an email list or a text list, create videos that incentivize them to go there and then sell there more often than TikTok. And it's like just better in terms of getting in front of the right people. And you can segment too.
Does anyone have any perspective on like actually, because I used to do this as well, and I haven't been doing it as much recently with our super phone, but like, because I know TikTok like bans you if you like say text this number. Does anyone have any perspective on like how you creative ways to send people to your text list through TikTok?
Good question. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I've been experimenting a little bit with written stuff, like basically having like stuff written in the background with a couple of friends. Not super valuable. I think platforms like Laylo are probably going to be your best bet on that front. Definitely.
Which Laylo is basically like it's like a pre-save platform, but instead of like putting your email in, you put your number in and you get a reminder when the song drops, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's kind of like a drop platform. So they don't
Nice.
only cater to musicians, but musicians are kind of like the go-to person, because like I would argue that about half of what musicians do online is just inform people, hey, this dropped. So if we can minimize the amount of times that we say, hey, this dropped on like social media, out now, or all those different things, which we'll touch on that. That's what that platform does. Shout out to Laylo. I want to kind of like move on from that, and I want to actually talk a little bit about the process. So we talked about the process of figuring out kind of like what I want to post about, but I want to talk about the process of how do I do that? How do I produce content in scale? What are the different ways we can kind of like approach that?
My thing personally is repurpose. Build a content bank and then understand that every time you post a new like piece of content, right? Even if it's a repost of the same piece of content, for the most part, because TikTok is driven by discoverability, you're reaching new people who have either never seen that content before or who honestly don't mind seeing a new version of it. And so like, you know, I don't think I've filmed new content in like a month and a half or something like that. I have like literally I have a drive of like all of these verses that I've been like dropping over the past like 2 years. and I literally go into like my editing app. I figure out either a different intro to it, or I figure out a different a different zoom, like different zooms or whatever it is, and I figure out different ways to frame it, and I repurpose and repost it. And sometimes my seventh time like posting the same verse. Actually, no, I have a song where the 65th time posting the verse was the one that went super viral. And so I think you really need to be open to that. Is just the idea of like repurposing content and like framing it from a different standpoint. And just because it didn't hit the first time doesn't mean that it's not a good piece of content, you know. Really it's about like retrying and like reframing like similar content. And so if you can film one piece of content, I'm rambling, but if you can film one piece of content and then turn it into like 10 different, like frame it 10 different times, that I think is the best way to kind of go about like systemizing content at scale.
That's amazing, because you know, taking one piece of content, kind of like repurposing it, makes the process of producing content just a lot less daunting, and realizing that once you hit that post button, it's not like all your work went down the drain. You can still reuse it. That's amazing. That's an amazing point. What about you? Like, what about you, Ken? Like, how do you approach scaling scaling the process of content creation? Because I know you're creating like an anime, like let's say you have the Demon Slayer series that I know, like you did a Demon Slayer remix that went massively viral. Like, do you just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna write down like the top 5 anime series and like do remixes to all of them, or how do you approach that, like the production
Yeah.
process?
Yeah. So in terms of speed, so like kind of like what Rowan said, because like there's two different things, right? There's like, okay, how can I push out as much content as possible? And how can I keep injecting new content into my strategy without burning myself out, without like creating like, because I realistically only create maybe 1 to 2 new videos a week, but I'm still posting like twice a day, 3 times a day, using what Rowan does. Just like I make one piece of content and one piece of like main content, so like music, right? And then I repurpose it, like I reframe it in as many ways as I can. And I give myself, I put on a timer. I'm like, okay, 30 minutes. I have to record like all these little hooks and whatever, and I just like edit them all. So now, like from one piece of content, I spent an hour on this. Now I have like 10 different pieces of content from this one piece of content, and then I just keep posting and scaling it like that. So that's like kind of how I post a lot without making a lot of videos. And then in terms of like making new content, like if I want to kind of go down the series, it's like, okay, what else is anime? Do I want to keep still doing this? Right? Does this still bring me joy? Because I think like a big thing about TikTok is like, why are you doing this? Like, make sure the content you're making is actually bringing you joy or like adding into your musicality. I like producing stuff on TikTok, even if it takes me a bit longer to make a video. I like producing because it just helps me become a better producer, a better musician, and that adds into the other side of my business, right? So it doesn't really matter for me. But am I having fun continuing this series? For me, some of the animes, like I've done like most of the anime bangers, and now I'm just like, I'm kind of out of stuff to remix. So I'm like, all right, time to let me do something new and just like keep reframing the stuff that I have so I can keep posting new content. But then I'm also developing actual new content on the side. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. um yeah, damn, that was lit. Awesome. We have a few more minutes, so I just kind of like want to, I guess, what would you do? And this is like kind of like an open question to all of the panelists, but what would you do if you started your account today? You have 0 followers, you have no content produced. What would you do to start your account tomorrow? Or what would you advise to someone who's just starting out tomorrow?
For me, I remember wasting a lot of time trying to follow the trends when I first started on TikTok. And then my biggest realization was like, I'm not having fun doing any of this. What is fun for me? And I started posting things that were actually fun and fulfilling to my musicality, to my artistry. And that's when things started popping up or popping off. So for me, like, I think the most important part is like really sitting down and being like, what do you enjoy doing? Let's show that off. Now, after you kind of worked your content creation muscle a bit, like, okay, you're getting used to making these videos. Now let's figure out why, or if you're getting views, why you're not getting views. Let's kind of reframe it. Let's figure out, like, are you still having fun though? Like, just making sure you're having fun every step of the way. Burnout is like the biggest killer of TikTok creators on TikTok. I have so many friends who I met on TikTok back in 2020, and now they're not even creating content anymore because they created so much back in 2020 and 2021. They just burned out, and so they didn't want to. So, you know, me, Rowan, we're still doing this because we really, really love it, and we figured out ways to have a lot of fun with TikTok and have it contribute to our artistry and our musicianship and our businesses. But just making sure that I'm having fun every step of the way. And, you know, because if you're having fun and you get no views, you're having fun. So it doesn't really matter. And then it's just a matter of, you know, finding someone to tell you, oh, you just have to tweak this. And now you can start funneling these into your business, these views into these audiences into your business. Fun.
I
Awesome.
love that. Yeah. And I think too, so I'm actually kind of in the process of doing this because I've done it in the past. I started on TikTok in 2020, did not know what I was doing. The account just got away from me. And so I was like, I'm just going to start from scratch now that I have a better idea of what to do, and grew that from scratch. And now I'm doing it again because that was my business account, but I'm starting like a new music and personal brand focused account. And the biggest things that are helping me to actually follow through, knowing that I have a lot on my plate, and you probably do too if you're a musician, is number one, planning beforehand. So thinking about, what are the series ideas that I'm going to start with? Do you have to do them forever? No, but what are you going to start with and see if it works and sounds fun to you? So I've been planning those out. And then the biggest thing is, like, when you're getting started, I cannot emphasize this enough. Batch as much as you can before you actually start posting and putting yourself out there, because it's so easy to lose momentum when, like, you've posted all your videos, you have nothing in the vault, and you're not seeing a response yet, to be like, forget it. Like, I don't even want to do this. Nobody cares about me. Nobody likes what I'm doing. Nobody's commenting. Like, this sucks. And that's because sometimes it does genuinely take a little bit of time to get your footing and get traction. That's normal. That's okay. But if you lose your momentum, it's so hard to get back up on the horse. So batching content so that you're already ahead of the game, and then you don't have to put pressure on yourself to be like, I haven't posted, but I don't really have any ideas, but I haven't posted, so let me just like put something shitty up there. It allows you to have more creative juice, because you don't have to force yourself to create. Because you have a little bit of backlog. So that's like one of the biggest tips that I would give to anybody who's just starting out.
100%. Yeah, I think definitely batching. Like, I would get like at least 15 to 20 videos in your drafts before even posting your first one. That way you can just go day to day, just post, and that's a huge one. I think also, if I was starting today, again, like, I would think about what we just talked about, which is like repurposing content and figuring out how like one piece of content can be like 10 to 15 pieces of content. And the final thing I would focus on, because I think both Kenneth and Katie hit the nail on the head. The last thing I would add is, no matter how early, I would start focusing on community-driven activities, not just like focusing on just going viral. So, like, for example, I have a Discord. Like, if I had a Discord as an artist, like starting today, I would start driving people to that Discord like immediately. I would start getting people to like my Patreon immediately. I know it's like kind of like a heavy ask, but I think even if you can get like that one super fan who supports you on that level, that is such incredible validation. And it shows you what matters, which is not like going viral and getting in front of a million people. But what really matters is ultimately, you know, getting those super fans and building those first 1,000 fans who support you and kind of like push you in your career as a musician. Right? Not just being a content creator or TikToker, but your career as a musician. And that, I think, can instill a different mindset when it comes to chasing the right things, not just the vanity metrics. Yeah. So
That's very encompassing. I love the fun angle, because a lot of people treat like content creation as a chore, and like, these are musicians we're talking about. We're not talking about like people who chose to work in accounting. Like, let's you know, their whole career is a bunch of fun, awesome shit. We can't expect them to have like, you know, shout out to accountants, yes. But like, we can't expect like just this part, this infinitely important part of their career to be boring and annoying and a chore. So I love that angle. Judd asks, what does everyone think about using hashtags? Connor Price, for example, is a big proponent of not using any hashtags. Yeah, I mean, on my end, personally, I don't think that hashtags are a huge impact. Like maybe they'll improve your performance by 5 or 7%. But I'm interested to hearing like what you guys are thinking about that.
I, yeah.
Go ahead. You go.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at why hashtags are important on social media platforms. Like, look at it from their perspective, like the platform's perspective. Ultimately, hashtags, especially in the early days, like why they're important for a platform is it helps connect the creator to their ideal audience, and you're putting the power of finding the audience in the creator's hands. You're giving the creator the power to say, I want to reach these types of people. The thing about it is, the more data TikTok gets on its platform, the better TikTok gets at identifying content, right? They have algorithms that ultimately like scan your face and like can actually determine like this person has a mic in front of them and there's music in the background. They are a rapper. They can literally like identify and categorize your content now based on like what your video is. The more advanced that technology gets and the more advanced TikTok as a platform gets, because they're getting all of this data from all these other hundreds of thousands of creators, the less necessary an indicator like a hashtag becomes. That doesn't mean it's not useful, because ultimately they could also miscategorize you, right? They could say that like, oh, you're like, they could think that Kenneth is an anime creator rather than an anime music creator and miscategorize him. So sometimes it can still be important to like implement those hashtags. I still do. But what I'll say is, I don't think it's the be all end all. I don't think it is the path to success. Very rarely is it the path to success. If you have a viral video, it's not because of the hashtags. It's because of the content. The hashtags might have initially helped it a little bit in targeting the right audience, but it could also actually detract from your success because you're pushing, the video to the wrong audience. And my last 6 viral videos have had no hashtags on it. So, it's not like I never use hashtags. Sometimes I do, especially if it's like something to do with like a trending, something to pop culture or whatever. But generally speaking, I don't think you need to like break your mind over it. And don't blame your success or lack of success on the use of hashtags.
100% agree. I was basically going to say the same thing, and I'll give a couple examples. I created an account for my dog because I'm psychotic, and it really helped to get it in front of the right people from the beginning, but it's not like it's helping grow now. It helped me to find my niche for that account right at the beginning. His handle is Ziggy Z the Cavapoo. I'm not joking when I say it's psychotic. It's videos of me talking as him. I basically send them to my family, and then they were like, can you please put it on TikTok? Like, you really do not have to follow it. I think I'm funny. I think I'm like fucking hilarious, but probably most people don't. It's more
Can
of
you
like
put it in the chat, please?
it is a literal pet project. So yeah, I'll put it in the chat in a second. And then, for example, I also think it's helpful when you are talking on like relevant, timely topics, I'll just say. So like, for instance, I created a video around Halloween that was something about Wicked, the musical, about one of the characters. So I made sure I hashtag Glinda, Elphaba, Wicked the musical theater nerd, stuff like that, because even though it is relevant to my audience, it's not exactly my niche. So by hashtagging those things, and that video actually ended up going like pretty viral, especially it helped me get out of a little bit of a rut too. So I think that helped, but like, I'm not hashtagging like music coach on like every single video of mine, because that I don't think matters too much, especially since I'm already established. Or like if I did commentary on Taylor Swift Midnights, I would hashtag Midnights, Taylor Swift Midnights, things like that, because it's just going to get to the people who are like actively consuming this very relevant and timely topic. So that's how I would use them.
One
Really
thing
interesting.
also really quickly is there's sorry, yeah, go ahead, Itai.
No. I was just saying.
Hashtag there's this concept of metadata on TikTok, which is basically any information that TikTok can extract from your video being posted to identify a target audience. Hashtags are only one way they do that, right? So if you're posting a video about Marvel, for example, you can go hashtag Marvel. That's one way to tell TikTok, I'm trying to reach Marvel fans. But another way is to tag a Marvel theme song as the sound. That also reaches like Marvel fans. Another way to do it is like put text on there that says like Iron Man or whatever, right? Like there's different ways to reach your audience. It's not just hashtags. And I think people quite often pigeonhole themselves to like just hashtags as the only way to reach a specific audience. There's other ways to do it too. So if Kenneth is tagging like the Death Note theme song as his like sound, he's going to reach fans of the show, right? So don't just limit your view to like hashtags when it comes to actually reaching like a target audience.
Awesome. I'm gonna just kind of like recap with one last question, because we're a little bit past the time. Thank you guys so much for being here for so long. So just like one last question, what is the most impactful thing you think that people do? One thing, if you can tell artists to do one thing, what is the most impactful thing? And we'll start with Katie, that like the most impactful thing you can tell an artist in 30 seconds or less.
Oh my God. Okay, I want to say make it about your audience, not about you. Like just simply put, serve the audience, provide value, make it about them, don't make it about you.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. Not being selfish or not being self-centered, I feel like is not like a good, it's kind of like, musicians are self-centered for the most part. And
like,
rightfully so.
This is my song, I wrote this about me versus like, hey, if you went through this, you're going to relate to it. Like it's the same exact thing, same exact sentiment, but it completely changes how people interact. So like always make it about them.
That's amazing. I mean, because you're like putting something out as like a musician, you're putting something out to the world that is like the most like deepest thing out of your soul, and like you're asking people to like not make it about you. I feel like if you can do that, you're amazing. And that's a really amazing piece of advice. And I feel like people are gonna really benefit from that. Rohan.
Yeah. I would say it probably took Steph Curry over 50,000 shots to become the greatest shooter of all time. So if you post 32 posts and none of them catch fire, and you look at yourself and say, I'm not a good shooter or I'm not a good content creator, just think about the level that it takes to actually get where you want to go. Like it takes a lot, right? So you're kind of like, you're not giving yourself the chance you deserve by like looking at it that way. And you need to like ultimately look at every single post as a new at bat opportunity. And like every single post is ultimately you working on your shot, and might be the fifth that goes viral. Like in Kenneth's case, we're very envious, or it could be the 500th post, right? But if you just let go of that mentality of like overthinking it and just start posting, I guarantee you will see something. You'll see things that you can't even imagine, like are unimaginable.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely follow Katie on TikTok. Thank you so much for being here, Katie.
Bye, everyone. Sorry, I've
chatting.
got a coaching call, so I have to hop off. But it was so great chatting with you, and hope to connect on the apps. Bye, everyone.
Yes. All right. Well, Kenneth, tell us what's your secret.
Honestly, like what Rowan said, just do it. Stop overthinking it. Just do it, because the more you post, the better you get at it, the faster you get at it. The more you do it, it's a matter of when, not if, right? Just gotta do it. Don't overthink it.
Those are really amazing points. Damn. Thank you guys so much. If there are any more questions, feel free to email me or shoot me a DM on Instagram. Guys, why don't you drop your handles in the thing? Thank you guys so much for being here. There will be a recording at the end of this. we'll also send to all the participants, we'll send a promo code for Push Talk if you want to run a campaign. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Hope to see you on the next one.
Thanks a lot for having us, man. Cheers.
Thank you. Oh, wait, this didn't end. We're still just chilling here. But rock and roll, guys. Thanks so much.
See you guys.
Bye.